Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Well, by now, I'm sure you've heard a lot about the mass shooting in Kansas City at the Union Station at the end of the Kansas City Chief Victory Parade. The latest figures, I think, are one dead. There's been varying stories. It always changes, and it could change more. So far, they've verified one dead, 22 injured. 10 or 11 of those children who were taken to Children's Mercy Hospital, an excellent hospital, Children's Hospital in Kansas City. At one point, they said there was two dead, but they've come back on that. Information changes on these things as it develops because you're relying on, well, the information flow is just a jumble. Those of you who have been involved in things like this know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a tendency on the part of others who haven't been involved in things like this not to understand the chaos that really is. The chaos is not just the crowd running, it's the information, and it's difficult to know. At first they thought there was one shooting scene. Turned out there might have been two separate shooting scenes. I want to say just a few things about this. There was another what was called the Kansas City Massacre back in the 30s, where some gangsters, one of whom they say, although it wasn't verified, was Pretty Boy Floyd, trying to help a gangster escape from custody, from police custody. A couple of people were killed. The police chief was killed, and the guy that they were trying to save was killed. What was his name? Frank Nash. And two people killed, and back then in the 30s they called that the Kansas City Massacre. You can still see the the nicks from the bullets in the facade of the Union Station. I would take people down there years ago and show them where those bullets hit. But yesterday, of course, it was unfortunate, and everybody is talking about how terrible and horrible it is, and it is. I'm not at all trying to diminish the importance of it, but I want to bring up some points here, because this is going to be used for the gun control people, and I'm already hearing false flag, this and that, and this and why. It's kind of like, I mean, my gosh, and for those in the preparedness community who tend to latch on the most outlandish conspiracy theories, I'm going to say settle down. Okay, don't jump on everything that you hear. I mean, I have heard that, some people actually believe these things, that the Super Bowl was fixed so Travis Kelce and what's her name, whatever the girl's name is, the singer, that they would be a power couple, and towards the election they were going to come out in favor of Joe Biden, and that was good. All of this kind of, I heard, what did I hear? I heard somebody say something like he's king now, right? King Charles is abdicating, will give up his throne to William, and people think that William is the Antichrist. Come on, guys. I mean, you don't only make yourself look stupid, but you make, well, maybe that's the purpose. Maybe these are infiltrators trying to make, people who kind of try to see beneath the surface look stupid, and they certainly do. But this isn't a false flag, number one. Okay, this is what happens in cities sometimes. It's what happens in cities, and right now I'm going to have people come on. That's why you shouldn't live in a city. Oh, for crying out loud! People like to live in cities. That's why we live in cities. Okay, you want to live someplace else? Good for you. That's great. Don't come on here and tell people they shouldn't live in cities. Cities are vibrant places. I have loved the city, okay? I have lived in the city all my life. I like the occasional peace and quiet of the country. I don't particularly like small towns. I'll be real honest. I was a marshal in a small town. Didn't really like the culture there, all right? So, but people live in cities because they like to. It's vibrant, it's energetic, it's all sorts of things. You get the chance to go to things. We didn't go to the parade. We went last year. And we were going to go this year, but well, nobody really wanted to go down. We were busy, a lot of things to do. It's essentially it's 1 million people in a crowd, 900,000 of them having to go to the bathroom, and who wants to do that, right? Who wants to stand in line of 100 people to get into a little blue plastic box to relieve yourself? That's not my idea of a fun day, but it is for many. See, that's the thing. Different strokes for different folks. Let people do what they want. Stop criticizing them. Well, what happened here, and of course the information is going to come out eventually. They are not identifying the suspect yet. That tells you something. But I'll tell you what it was. And Quentin Lucas, the loser mayor of Kansas City, came on. He said, "Well, I'm not going to get into it now, but this is why people are talking about guns." Well, let me tell you what they shouldn't be talking about and what they should be talking about. Okay, they shouldn't be talking about guns. What they should be talking about is the culture that brings this into the greater society. It's a cultural problem. And they don't need less guns. They need more fathers. I'll guarantee you, and I have some information just from gleaning. I don't have any secret information. Nobody from the department said, "Hey, let's call Smith and tell him what we're thinking about." No, just from what I've gleaned here, just from the news, I'll tell you that I will bet you 99% the perpetrators of this did not have fathers in the home. They were probably born without a father, or father was in jail, or whatever. Okay, that's the cause of these things. And I'm not going to get into that. I've heard some details that I believe. I'm not going to share them here because we don't know. Okay, probably today more information will come out. We'll see. They're going to slow walk this for a while for a number of reasons. But it's a cultural situation. And you do find this culture more in the cities. I'll give you that. Are the cities dangerous places? Let me slip this in too, because I think this is important for people to understand. And so much of the anti-city sentiment is propagated by people, and not all, but a lot of it is propagated by people who have not lived in cities, who don't like cities. But not all. There are some people who have lived in the cities and they don't like them and they moved out. Good for them. Hey, America, right? But the thing is, I'll tell you something here that I think a lot of people need to hear. Those of you who have been working, I was a police officer for quite a while. I lived in the city I've lived in the suburbs now, but I lived most of my life in the city. Okay, and I mean the city. I was a police officer in the city. I continued to live in the city after I left law enforcement for a long time. I like the city. I like the energy of the city. I like the people of the city. I like the opportunities of the city. You can go and eat all different kinds of places. It's just the entertainment, the everything. Go on. There's nothing about the city, I'll be honest, that I didn't like. Now the cities are changing now, but let me say this. In all the years of my life, do you know how many times I have seen a crime being committed? I thought about this so that I could count them up. I mean, years and years and years, including the times that I was on the police department. Several times while I was on the police department. Because I worked a very high crime area, and occasionally you'd roll up on something going, usually a fight or something like that, okay? A few times. Since I left law enforcement, I have never seen an act of violence or a crime. Never. Does that surprise you? I've never been a victim of it. I've never seen one. Now, does that mean they don't have it? Of course not. They happen. They happen all over the place, and innocent people are victimized. I understand that. But there's a tendency on the part of many to overblow this idea of the city being a dangerous place. Well, it can be dangerous if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay? Same as walking in the country can be. Usually not dangerous, but if you step over that rock and that happens to be a copperhead or a rattler on the other side, well, all of a sudden it becomes dangerous. Same thing. Okay, same thing. You stay away from the places you don't need to be, and you're going to be pretty good. You even go to a lot of places that you maybe shouldn't be, and you'll probably get out of it all right. But maybe not, but probably. Okay, so there is this idea that the city is overly dangerous. Can be, but not usually. My mother told me that back in the 40s, she was visiting some people some friends out in California. And they found, well, and then some friends of theirs found out she was from Kansas City. And they said, oh my gosh, Kansas City. Where do you carry your gun? Because Kansas City at the time had such a reputation of being violent. But here again, I say, most people who live in the city all their lives have never seen an act of violence. So that's something you just need to keep in mind. You have to understand, deal with the realities, not the fears that are thrust upon you. Okay. But anyway, we're going to see what happens in this. It's gonna be a couple of groups of fatherless morons who got into an argument, and somebody pulled a gun and started going at it. Now, we're still wondering whether there was one shooting scene or two shooting scenes. There very possibly could have been two different shooting scenes. Okay. Very possibly. Like, you get a crowd that big, you're going to get people down there thugging, thug life. And things are going to happen. That's why you stay away from those people as much as you can. But are you going to stay away from big celebrations like a Chiefs victory parade? No. I mean, there are going to be people out there. I don't go into crowds. I don't go. Yeah, I understand that. I'm not comfortable in a crowd. I would prefer not to be in a crowd. But then I've been, in enough crowds. I've lived in the city. And when you live in the city, long enough, you're not afraid of it. It's like the leopard in the jungle. He's not afraid of the jungle. Yeah, there are dangers out there, but he's not afraid of the jungle. It's where he lives. He understands. City people pick up on stuff. They have you can tell a city person from a person who's not from the city by the way they act. And one of the things and they're always aware, they're always on guard, but it doesn't take away from the joy of their life. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the energy, to be honest, of the city. I did see an indication of kind of what's wrong with our world as I was watching the news, and I saw so many people just in tears. Most of them women, and that's not a crack on women. Most of them women, but not all. There were some men who were like, they were crying. They were going like, and I heard some of the stuff on the radio. Oh, I can't believe I can't believe in a world that I live in the world. What's wrong with people whining, blah, blah, what's wrong? Well, come on. I mean, this is the world you live in. This has been the world. It is the world. Accept it and deal with it. These are the kind of people that aren't going to do well in an emergency, and sadly to say, it's very many of them, and then they interviewed other people that you obviously knew we're from the city, and they said, well, it's too bad this happened. There's idiots around, and we hate to see this, on a day of celebration, but that's, it's too bad, and hopefully they'll find the ones who did it. One person died, apparently a nice woman who was a local DJ, and the host of a Hispanic language show on the public radio station. And a lot of people injured, 22 others shot, I guess. Quite a few of them kids. Turns out they're going to be all right. All right physically. And here's the thing. A lot of them, back to the softness of people, a lot of those kids are going to turn out better than these people who manufacture their victimhood by being overly upset that, oh my gosh, I was in, they didn't even see the shooting, they didn't even hear the shooting, they didn't do anything, but all of a sudden, just because it happened in the general area where they are, they're just distraught, they're just destroyed, they're emotionally and mentally fragmented because of their own emotional weakness. And I say to you all, grow up. It's a tough world. It can be a dangerous world. Accept it. Understand it and deal with it. Okay? Be in charge of your own mental equilibrium. And a lot of that simply is accepting how life is. Okay? I'm going to go. I'm going to do one now for the Patreon channel on what to do if you ever find yourself in that situation in a mass shooting like that. There's a difference between a mass shooting and an active shooter, and what really this probably was just two crime scenes. This was probably just a couple of, I mean, I don't know that because the information had to come out. Probably what it is, it was an argument between groups, and a whole lot of people got in the way. I have heard, and this has not been verified, I heard that there was perhaps an automatic weapon involved. Doesn't mean that there was. Don't know. 22 people shot, though. Those are accidental shootings. Those aren't targeted shootings. That's what I'm saying. So I'm going to do one now on what to do if you find yourself in that situation. I went through it with my kids last night. They know, but we went over it. We used this opportunity to kind of make sure that everybody knows if we were down there. If it had happened last year when we were there, what do we do? So I did that. So I'll be doing that on the Patreon channel. By the way, if you're not with us on the Patreon channel, I don't put stuff like the what to do's and things like that on YouTube anymore. Just because of the morons and the silliness that happens on YouTube. I put the serious stuff, the kind of instructional things, the real things, on Patreon. And if you're not with us, we'd love to have you. We are approaching 900 Patreon members. That's amazing. I think I just checked this morning, 899 patrons over on the Patreon channel. And if you're not with us, we'd love to have you. I put so much more over on Patreon than I do here. It's not that, I don't want to share information. I do want to share information. That's why I put it on Patreon. I keep it off of YouTube because of all the trolls and the morons and the people who will come on and say stupid, misleading things. And I just don't have time to police the comment section like I should when that comes. Because if I put if I put on YouTube what I'm going to put on Patreon, I don't know how many people I'd come on here and give totally false and stupid advice to people, which is misleading. And these are people, people who have never done it. It's amazing how full of knowledge and advice they are to tell other people what to do because they heard somebody say something. So get your information for somebody who's actually done it, been there. So what I was going to say is if you're not with us, go ahead and you can join us because the link is down below. It only costs you $1 a month. Come over to the Patreon, and I'm going to shoot that one next. If you want to know how to order my books, those links are down below too. I don't really talk in my books about how to deal with mass shootings, so and I'm not going to use this as a venue to sell, to advertise my books. I think I just don't feel right about that. But anyway, it's a day. We're going to find out what happens. Large gatherings can be dangerous. There are some who will keep that small danger, and it is small. It's very small danger. From keep them, they will allow these things to keep them from being involved in things in life. And you make your own decision. I wouldn't want it to keep me from enjoying things that I want to enjoy. Other people feel differently. Whatever's right for you, do what's right for you. But you really should operate on real information, not fears that are for the most part unfounded. But then again, you know, life can be dangerous. So anyway, our prayers are obviously with those people, those victims and their families, and we hope that they, uh, do well and come out of this all right. Well, you're going to see a push for gun control over this, which is why so many people are saying false flag, false flag. That's not a false flag. It's city punks, man, acting like city punks. And the problem is not too many guns, it's too few fathers. And that's a cultural issue. And I don't see us fixing it. And it is the result of liberal Democrat policies. Simple as that. Okay, you all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And I'll see you. If you're with us on Patreon, I'll see you tomorrow. If you're with us just on YouTube, I'll see you sometime. Bye bye.